everyone, and welcome back to the Adcast, a podcast for the study of modern visual culture. I am your amnesiac reaper with a tragic backstory, Renu.
And I'm your fried chicken lady, Soup.
This week we have a special guest, pew, 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 pew. Pew, 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 pew. An immensely powerful yet immature dokebi, Bluejay! Yay!
Yay, it's me. Hello.
Thanks for joining us, Bluejay.
It is my absolute pleasure.
Yay! So,
Yeah, welcome.
this week AT stands for
Oh, crap.
Soupy.
Oh no, I knew I forgot something. Oh my. One second.
AT stands for...
What? 1 second. Yes.
Oh, that's great.
All right, this week AT stands for Ageless Tragedy because we'll be talking about Goblin or Guardian, the Lonely and Great Guardian, or
Guardian, the Lonely Great God.
Chanoran Hashin Tokebi, but for brevity we'll be referring to the show primarily as Goblin. I did write this in the Korean, and I realized afterwards that I was not going to be reading this because you were starting, but now I will be reading it because I know you can't read this.
Thanks.
Yeah, imagine if we're sitting here like I need to bring out like a translator or something. I'm like, sal.
Yeah.
It would take me 10 years, but I might be able to do it.
That's the whole podcast right there.
The whole podcast is now me
Yeah.
learning Korean.
Me too.
All right, welcome to our Korean learning podcast. It's the Duolingo time. We're gonna load up the old owl.
Ah.
Well, I mean, I
it's,
did learn bits of Korean watching Goblin, so I can say ajushi.
Ajishi.
Yeah.
That's, that's the most important word.
It is.
Obviously.
It is. It's true.
Dokebi.
Dokebi. Yeah. It's funny because so basically, my like current sort of day job, right, is working as a retail worker for a Korean fried chicken company.
Yes.
So, I am actually the chicken
Delicious.
lady, right? But it's also very funny because I spend quite a lot of time explaining to people how things are pronounced. They're just like, excuse me, can I have the titiak book? I'm like,
No.
the duck bookie? Is that what
Tteokbokki?
you want? Yes, the titiak book.
I mean, like, it's honestly not that hard if you actually look at what you're reading.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, this is like a thing that I've really sort of I kind of assumed this was the case before, but I've really just gotten a lot of confirmation about it since like working a retail job for a couple months now, where most people just like go through their day on like complete autopilot, and they will pay the bare minimum amount of attention to get things done, which I understand. I completely get it. I have ADHD. Like I can barely listen and pay attention to a conversation that I am having with somebody in front of me. But it is extremely funny when I'm just like, okay, what flavor would you like your chicken? It's like, okay, well, what flavors do you have? And I'm like, well, I mean, they're listed there, but I'll tell you, we have these two flavors, or you can do half and half, which is like half of one, half of the other. Would you like a side of pickled radish or coleslaw? And the answer to that is more often than not just the word yes. And it's like, yes. And I'm like, you know what? Great. I'm glad that you've agreed that you want a side. Which one would you like?
Yeah. Which one?
And you can kind of see the gears turning on people's.
I mean, maybe it's because you always get people when they're hungry, and your brain doesn't really always work very well when you're hungry.
You know what? That's valid. I hadn't thought about that, but you're probably right. I'm worthless when I'm hungry.
Right? Like, my brain just goes out the window. There's a quote, I think it's from New Girl, where it's like, I'm not convinced I actually know how to read. I've just memorized a lot of words.
You know what? That's fair. My house has been watching New Girl recently.
I told you, psychic.
Yeah, what? What's going on here?
I am a supernatural creature.
I think you know Soupy's entire life more than Soupy does.
I mean, we are related, so.
I mean, yeah. This is getting spooky. So, yeah, what, I guess, just kind of to slide into it, what have you been up to, Renu?
Me, I Well, I told you about my busy weekend at work. That's not fun.
Yeah, you seemed quite busy. We had to push Ace Attorney back by quite a bit.
By like half an hour.
By like half an hour or so. And I didn't realize that was because you were working. That's horrific.
I know. I had to go in over the weekend because I had an animation due today, and my computer decided Saturday when I came in that it was going to blue screen and just not boot back up.
Okay. Yeah, you love to see that.
Horrifying.
Yeah, so I know it just only booted to the BIOS and didn't boot up actual Windows, and so I spent the entire day trying to get the rest of my animation done, but also trying to diagnose what the heck is wrong with my computer. And then today, I had tried everything, even trying to reinstall Windows, and it just said that it couldn't see the drive. And so I'm thinking maybe the M.2 somehow just died, even though we bought it last September, which was only
Yeah, I remember you
not that
talking
long
about
ago.
this.
Yeah, so we bought a new one today. I installed it and I'll be testing it out tomorrow. So
Okay,
fingers
that's good.
crossed. Yeah, but
Well,
yeah,
I have
did.
the best of wishes for you in your new M.2.
Thank you. Yeah, that's all I've been up to is just
Just work.
frantically working. Yeah.
I completely understand. I've been in a pretty similar boat. So we were actually going to record this a week ago. I honestly at this point I don't even know when this episode is gonna come out. It might come out at the end of February. It might come out a week after the end of February. It stands to be seen. I've been going through it, you know. I got through the largest brunt of my work over the last couple of weeks, but like essentially January for me, I just spent the whole thing just working on my freelance stuff, which you know is like I like it. It's fulfilling work. It is also hard work, and it pays like beans, which is just kind of a huge disappointment. But I spent we were gonna record last week. We're relative to us, so a week ago we were gonna record, but I stayed up all night. Literally, I stayed up 7 hours. Just kind of I focused in on the work, because it was due that day, and I did it. And I looked at the clock and I was like, oh, I have about an hour and a half to sleep before I have to go sell chicken to people. Delightful. Okay. So I was like, hey guys, I don't think we can record today. I think I will go home and go to sleep.
And that was a good plan.
Yeah, that is what I did.
I had a whole beautiful dinner planned for us.
Look at that.
I had a wine picked out, and you made me spend it with my dog Riker instead.
Yeah.
I mean, that seems like a pretty good.
It was great, and I made the dinner that I planned for Valentine's Day tonight anyway, and I currently have the glass of wine, so it's like fate or whatever.
Okay. All right,
it's your psychic powers.
I had steak. I had to have that beef. It's very Goblin themed.
Oh,
that
so
is
cute.
I had this reminds me a couple of weeks ago. So you know how so before we started recording, I was talking about my vacuum thing, right? 'Cause you know,
Yes.
It's part of that vacuum story, which is to say, I put off getting a vacuum for a very long time because the vacuum that we got when the vacuum that was in the house when we moved in was really just a piece of garbage, right? But we didn't want to buy a new one, or we were putting off buying a new one because my parents offered to buy us as a household a like just an appliance of some kind, right? Our choice. For moving out and housewarming gift and stuff. And their only condition was like, oh, you should like host us for dinner or whatever. Let us see the house and stuff. And I was like, yeah, that's fine. But that was like right before the like real big Omicron sort of wave hit, and I was like, okay, maybe we should put this off a little bit. So we waited like a month or two, and as we were going to do it, have the dinner finally, I went and I bought some nice dry aged steaks that I was gonna cook for my family.
Oh wow.
I get them. I was like, hey, I like send my family a message. I'm like, hey, how many people am I going to be cooking for? And it's pretty important to know. And my sister's like, I am not coming. I have caught COVID. I'm like, okay, all right. And I'm like, wait, are you still living with mom and dad? And my parents are like, oh yeah, she's in like a side room or whatever. And I'm like, okay, but like you're not coming then. Like, you're not coming into my home.
It's fine. We totally were not also exposed before we knew that she had it. Like, it's not how that works at all, except for that's exactly how it works.
Up, this is the thing with my family where like they will not tell me like seemingly quite important things, right? And so they were very willing to just kind of come and not say that my sister had fucking COVID and they might have been exposed. So anyway, I was like, no, but anyway, at that point we already had the vacuum because I had gone up to their place like a month prior to take cooking lessons. I take cooking lessons for my grandmother every month.
That's so sweet.
That's cute.
Yeah,
oh my gosh.
I used to have like baking brunches with my grandma.
Aww.
Oh, nice. Yeah, so I started doing it probably in the middle of last year. Or maybe actually earlier than that. I think it was before I moved out. Even.
Can you send me some soup kimchi?
Yeah,
I would love that.
I very easily could. Yeah, I'm planning on making kind of some like fermented stuff. I'm planning on making some. When May rolls around, I want to try making plum wine.
Oh, God, give me that too.
I want to try.
Yeah. Oh my God, I'm gonna have to make so much.
Yay.
So, but yeah, I still haven't had dinner with my family yet. But we do have the vacuum now. So
I mean, what was most important, really, the vacuum cleaner or the family members? Like, we all know that we would sell some family members for a good Dyson. I would at least.
Oh my God, yeah. It's funny because my parents bought the vacuum and they had the vacuum. They were just holding on to it, right? When I went up there, and I was like, oh, can I take that with this? And they were like, yeah, sure. And then I came down and then we had the whole kerfuffle. But the thing that my mom said to me when she handed me the vacuum was, I'm pretty sure this is nicer than our vacuum. It's an LG vacuum.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
does it vacuum well? Is it a quality vacuum?
It's a very quality vacuum, and it has a turbo function that makes it like turbine like no one's business. It sounds like a spaceship taking off.
Wow, it's gonna take off.
Yeah. But that's been very nice, especially because Philip is a very, very messy boy, and
that's what I was
he
thinking.
gets his litter everywhere. We actually switched to a different litter type recently. Like it's like the pellet type.
Oh yeah.
But the only problem with it is the fact that it's our scoop is like the holes are a little bit just like a little too small, so it is really hard to scoop. I have to scoop and then just kind of shake it for like 5 minutes each. And I'm like, we need a better scoop.
So you have to replace the scoop too?
Yeah, we need to replace the scoop. But the litter itself is actually really nice.
Okay.
Yeah, the pros of having a dog is there's no litter box, but the cons are that his tiny paws tracking all this kind of stuff from outside, like all the dirt and mud and stuff. So I get like more different problems than litter. I get dirt and mud jumping on my pillows right after going outside.
No.
Yeah, it's great though. He's the best. I love him. I forgive him everything.
Well, I was gonna say like Renu probably has very similar problems.
Oh, the kitchen is always a time because the back door is usually like cracked open for the animals to go outside.
I'm so impressed that your household manages to juggle a dog and like 8 cats.
Yeah. Well, I mean, thankfully, a lot of them are they manage themselves pretty well. Like they're cats, and so having a lot of cats isn't actually as resource intensive or whatever as space intensive as you might think. My one dog like trumps all of them.
Yeah, no, I bet. Dog many work.
Yeah.
But so worth it. Pets always are.
Oh
I
yeah,
mean,
no,
pets always
definitely.
are light of our
They're
lives.
a true
That
joy.
was that was the nice thing about we got an automatic feeder for Philip a little while ago.
Mm-hmm.
And with that and his like water fountain, he's really just self-sustaining at this point. So like we obviously we don't want to leave him alone for too long. We don't know what he could get into, and like, you know, he's a little indoor baby. He doesn't know anything. He doesn't know any better. Like he might think we abandoned him or something. Right?
Oh, no.
Like he's a lonely boy. So we don't want to leave him alone for too long, but we could easily just like leave him for like a day and he would be fine. And,
yeah, the cats are the same.
We have
Yeah, you
done
cannot
that.
with dogs. No, they are too
cannot.
attached.
Oh
No.
God.
I
No.
think though, I think in my like fourth life, I would love to be a pet, like a cat or a dog. I think that
Oh,
would
definitely.
be a great.
I thought you were gonna say like a cat lady where
No,
the house
no.
is just like full of cats.
No, I would like to not have any human responsibilities, please.
Yeah.
Either that
Yeah,
or
I
supernatural
totally agree.
powers, one or the other.
Yeah, it's either a cat or supernatural powers. Maybe a
Yeah.
nice, like supernatural romance.
Someday.
Someday. Listen, reincarnation is real, as we've seen from Goblin.
As we've learned from this fictional K-drama, reincarnation is 100% real.
Yeah. Just slightly, you know, before we get into the topic itself. What have you been up to, Bluejay?
Me? Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I had a photo shoot in the last week of January. And it left me like just completely drained of all energy for the next 2 weeks. I don't know if you've ever tried like flexing for 6 hours straight, but it's exhausting.
That sounds awful. I hate moving.
Yeah. So it's just, we shot for 6 hours. It was so long. It was the longest shoot I've ever done, but I finally got my pictures back like 3 weeks after. And we ended up with like almost 600 pictures. So worth it, right?
Whoa.
And I look hot in every single one.
Yes, we love that.
So that was like my last big like work thing, and then I've just been trying to kind of get back to the gym, get back to schedule. I had a hibernation moment, which is kind of like how my work schedule works. The ramp up is just like an intense amount of just on all the time, and then after the thing is done, I hibernate while editing takes place elsewhere. Like if I had to edit my own photos, I would just pass away. I would just
oh God, yeah.
I need that time to just sleep forever and eat really like horrible food. So I ordered at least 3 cinnamon rolls, and recently found a new pizza place that I like that has like goat cheese instead of mozzarella.
Yeah.
Nice.
And I've been reading a lot and watching a lot of shows. Actually, one of which had some of the same actors as Goblin, which was fun to kind of get to see them all over again as different characters. It's been a good time.
Nice.
It's like they reincarnated again.
Right? Yes.
You know what? Any Korean drama is actually canon to Goblin because
they're all in the same universe.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's my belief. I want the like Marvel like and cinematic.
Oh my God.
universe,
So
like,
okay, so
Endgame
what's the
crossover.
order? What's the order of operations? What happened first? Was it Train to Busan, Goblin, and then Squid Game? Is that the order for Gong-yu, or
I think Goblin has to take place first, right? Because like he's like a Goryeo dynasty guy.
Okay, so Goblin first. But Train to Busan, he seems like, I don't know, younger almost. I know that like maybe there was an interim, maybe before he
Right. Maybe it was after, his death or whatever in the beginning of the story.
Right, he took up acting after, like sometime in the late 2010s.
And then Squid Game is obviously the last one because he's so fed up with human beings.
Yes, yeah. That's he's like, I'm done. You know,
he's like fuck all of you.
We're between the ages in which my wife is alive, so here's some crimes against humanity.
Oh, also I apologize. I didn't ask if we could swears.
Oh, it's okay.
Yes.
You can swear.
Okay.
I swear.
Soupy
all
once
the
tried
time.
to not swear during an episode and then lost within like 5 minutes.
I think I lasted about 5 minutes before it the concept of a swear-free podcast completely fell out of my brain. It just didn't exist anymore.
Imagine not swearing. I don't know if millennials are like have the capacity to not. Our lives are so fucked up that we must verbalize it on every occasion. And then you're younger than that, right? Or you on a cusp?
I'm like, yeah, I'm in that weird cusp between millennial and Gen Z. Like, I'm definitely not like a Gen Z person, right? But I'm still a little too young to like actually be like a millennial. So
It's okay.
I'm in that
You can
weird
just...
I'm in that weird in-betweener generation.
I will accept you. On behalf
We'll
of all
claim you.
You
Mhm.
can be one.
You're
I
still
mean,
baby, but
I would
we'll
say
claim you.
I feel like I was born quite old. I have always felt very, very older than my body.
Well, this must
but
be
now
your
my body's
fourth
catching
life
up.
then, I guess.
Whoa!
You know what? I think that's probably correct. What was it that they what
It was
was
like
that,
in
that
one-
Untuck says?
In one you you plant the seeds, and in one you
Right,
sow
and then
them.
you
No, one you
sow
water
and
them.
you
You
reap.
plant them, you water them, you sow
Yeah.
them, and then there's one
You
more, and
reap
I can't
them and then
remember.
you enjoy
You
them.
harvest them?
Enjoy like
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
something. Yeah,
It's like reaping what you sow. Except
that's the last
apparently-
one. So obviously you're not in that one. You're in the working really hard one, which must be either the watering or the harvesting.
Okay, I see. Yeah.
So either your second or third life.
Yeah.
You'll get to your fourth one, then you can just lay
I'll get
back and
there
have a good
eventually.
time.
If only. That sounds nice.
Wouldn't that be
Alas.
great? No cutsies though.
Yeah, gotta work through
You
it.
have to
gotta work
live
through
through
it.
the whole one, or else you go to hell. No fun.
Yeah, that's true. If you do an oopsie, you will become a reaper. So.
It's so interesting to me the ways in which they like mix and match the Korean mythology with Christianity.
Yeah, I mean that's so I am distinctly not as familiar with and this is maybe like this is one of those things that makes my like ancestors roll in their graves, but I'm distinctly not as familiar with like Korean socio-cultural sort of mythological stuff as I am with like, Japanese stuff. And part of that is acknowledging the very weird role that Christianity plays in Korean society, because South Korea is a very, very Christian country, largely because it's actually a very Protestant country specifically, largely because it has the first time that people tried to convert Koreans to Christianity was maybe sometime in the 1600s or something. And the emperor at the time was like, no, oh God, no.
No,
and he
that
killed
sounds
every
bad.
missionary. So the Catholics weren't allowed in. But by the time the Protestants got their, change of power and stuff, they were like, yeah, okay, why not? But also just because like Korean society, by its very nature, is very intertwined with American society and American social values and religious values and stuff, right? Like the thing is that a ton of South Korea is very Christian. They have mega churches. There are certain parts of the skyline of Seoul where if you look, you see just a sea of neon crosses. I've been there and I've seen them.
Wow.
Yeah.
And also there is obviously speaking from my experience, my family is religious as fuck.
Yeah.
My parents go to church. They've gone to church forever, basically. My grandfather was a fucking minister in Korea, and he literally just spent his entire life doing social work, basically, for the church for like rural Korea. And that's wild. I didn't actually even know about that until I had to read and edit his autobiography because my family doesn't tell me shit. But
It's
yeah,
nuts
my
that one of your
uncle-
family members wrote their own autobiography, though. Like,
Yeah. I mean, it was a very like very interesting, kind of affecting thing to have to go and read it because I like basically know nothing about my grandparents, and to have my grandpa like write the autobiography of his life out was, reading that, editing it, like, seeing what he had gone through for the first time, basically, because nobody tells me anything.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God.
That's cool.
I feel like it's sometimes hard to like think about your parents and grandparents as like fully fledged human beings. And I know it's weird to say, but like for a certain number of years, their lives started when you were born for you.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
And any concept of them being like full people and not just this is my mom and this is my dad and they only exist in relation to me.
Right, exactly.
Because like raising a child is very consuming. And so like then becoming an adult and being like, oh shit, my parents have like loves and hates and interests and history completely outside of what I know of them as just their offspring.
Yeah. I mean, this is also a problem exacerbated by the fact that like my entire family is very tight-lipped about anything in their personal histories. So, but my uncle is a faith leader in the United States Army. Believe it or not, that's his actual job.
Whoa.
So Christian society and mythology is a very present thing. It's obviously been adapted somewhat to Korean society. But when you speak about faith or any of that kind of spirituality stuff, in Korea, people take it in a Christian way. So I think that is, it's interesting because it's taking something that is obviously very traditional Korean mythology, like the myth of the dokebi or the goblin, which is an interesting translation, but one I don't necessarily disagree with because they do fulfill kind of similar roles as like these like trickster kind of spirits. Goblins as in like, the little weird little guys that
goblins as in the monsters that every level 1 D&D character has to crawl
exactly
through to get to the next level.
Each one has a ratty short sword and a bow.
Every single one. And that's what they look like. Gong-yu put on lots of prosthetics and just looked exactly like that.
But yeah, so for those of you that don't know, a tokebi is like it's just like a spirit, essentially. Not quite as like distinctly malicious as a monster, which I think the word for in Korean is like kemur or kemuri. And they're said to, like buckwheat jelly, like that's a thing. There's actually a very fun little detail, which is that they're known to really like buckwheat and buckwheat jelly. Like that's like a noted sort of like weakness or whatever of theirs. And there are a lot of scenes that take place in this buckwheat field, specifically the one in which they get married to each other. And I thought that was a very like sweet little detail.
Yeah.
I like that they explained that like in the special like the making of or whatever about kind of like the liberties that they took with these mythological.
Yeah, it's fun. I mean, like at the end of the day, right? It's fun. So I realize now we've been talking about Goblin for a while, and I didn't even.
I was going to say
this always happens. This always happens. Why we're so
okay. Professional.
We're so good at making a podcast.
Did you guys know we're talking about Goblin?
Okay. Goblin is a 2016 South Korean television drama written by Kim Eun-sook, starring Gong-yu as Kim Shin, the titular Goblin, and Kim Go-eun as eun-tak. The story revolves around a Goryeo dynasty general named Kim Shin, who is betrayed by the king he served and killed before being resurrected by God and being cursed with eternal life. And the only way he can pass on in the afterlife is to meet the Goblin's bride, who can pull out the sword in his body.
The Goblin's bride being eun-tak. The Goblin's bride being eun-tak.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there you go. There's the synopsis. But I mean, honestly, like we're gonna spoil the whole thing, so maybe you shouldn't even listen to this episode if you haven't.
Honestly, if you haven't watched Goblin, go watch it right now. And then you'll fall in love with all K-dramas, especially the romances, like me. And then your whole life and your expectations for love and romance is just gone forever.
Yep. It's is a terminal case of what we call shoujo manga brain. Happened to me when I was younger, and I've never recovered.
Aren't
It's
you
terminal, I'm
engaged? Like,
I am engaged.
I've never recovered. Has a fiance. Like, come on.
Well, listen, I'm just saying. It's not that I like have been ruined for romance. It's just that my brain has been permanently altered by shoujo manga in like sort of expectations around romance. Like it's like how people who played too much Pokemon when they were younger like have neurons in their brain that are specifically for remembering Pokemon names.
Yeah, I feel like my brain was originally ruined by like Disney princess happily ever afters, and like the shoujo manga and the like K-drama romance kind of fit very well with that. So like all of it has just been a repetition of the same problematic shit.
Yeah, I mean it's all pretty much the same, right?
Yeah,
it's society reinforcing its own ideas of what romance should look like, even though almost none do.
But my heart still goes pitter patter every time.
No, I completely agree. It's like that like that Twitter post that's like okay, so like talking to my therapist, like so like, you know, I we all agree that like monarchies suck and like, you know, the rule of power should not be in the hands of so few. It's like but like, don't you just love it when like somebody gets like crowned the rightful king? Who doesn't?
Right? Yeah.
Right?
I feel like we can part of being able to enjoy these types of stories is, you know, learning that they're problematic and being able to acknowledge that, and then you're like, it's problematic, comma, but I still love all these things about it. And like that's one of the things with the romance in Goblin. And like at the very, very beginning when you first meet the Goblin's bride, she's in fucking high school.
Yeah. I mean that's one of those things, right, where it's especially in genres like romance, you very much have to be able to look at things critically and say like, you know, this is like what is potentially problematic about this piece of media. But at the same time, you know, we're adults. We watch things because we like them. We can recognize when things have problems, but also it's a story, it's fiction, it's fake, and I am delighted in watching a lonely immortal man fall in love and learn how to be a person again. Like, who doesn't love that? I
love that. Just the premise. Beautiful.
There's
and there is a time skip, so it does make it better at the end.
Right. There is definitively a time skip where she's definitively a very adult, right?
Like not just a I just turned 19 adult, but like a whole full-fledged adult person.
Right. Although there is that like little bit at the end there where they're just like, she's in high school again. You're like, why did you do that?
Yeah, that's true.
But anyway, so yeah, I mean, the thing is that like obviously age gaps tend to be problematic in romances, specifically because they deal in, you know, power dynamics and they can normalize really unhealthy ones. But it's also one of those things that is, especially in a genre like this kind of supernatural romance genre, it's something that's a little bit like hard to avoid. Obviously, you can work around it by just being like, okay, so like this person is like 30, right? Like that's an adult. Like whatever happens after that point, you know,
30 to 900. Who cares, really?
Right, exactly.
Like,
30 to 900.
The difference is fine.
There is like weirdly, you're completely correct that there is a smaller difference between 30 to 900 than there is between like 30 and like 19.
Right? Well, it's the Edward Cullen, like, how old are you? 17.
Right, exactly.
How long have you been 17? A while. Because the Goblin, he died when he was like, you know, 40, right? Something like that.
Yeah, he was like distinctly an adult man.
And so I feel like there's a part of it that's like,
people.
you're 900, but really
you're like 40. You like never stopped being like 40.
your brain gets stuck at a certain age, and however much life experience you have past that, you're still an immature.
I mean, if you were cursed with immortality, like I suspect it would work kind of like that, right?
I mean, that's how real life actually works, Soup. I don't know if you know this,
Okay,
but at a
all right,
certain
fair
point, you kind of like yourself cements at a certain age, and like you stop being able to tell. Like I've grown and changed as a person, but I still feel kind of the same. I don't know if that would stay if I turned 900, but I guess I'll find out now, won't I?
I think there is also just kind of an element of like in sort of this kind of dynamic, and the reason I think people generally tend to find it appealing has a lot to do with it's kind of like a wish fulfillment, like power fantasy thing, but like maybe not a power fantasy, but like just a fantasy, right? Of like having somebody who can kind of Cinderella you away from whatever terrible circumstances you're in, and like they're much more powerful and wiser than you could ever know, but they still like regard you tenderly, right, and all that kind of stuff. And there is an element to that which is obviously like I'm not gonna say like people shouldn't enjoy that kind of thing. Like I can obviously see why it's appealing. Like this show is good, and it is, with the premise that it presents, the least weird it could be about it, I think.
I feel like they do like a fairly good job of handling it in terms of like from the scale of Twilight to Goblin, like
Yeah.
they do a pretty good
100%.
job of handling it. I will also say that like it kind of goes both ways when you're talking about society and like the stories they tell. Like there is in like eun-tak, she is kind of the Cinderella, like she's forced to do all these chores for her family, but there's also like the other side of the story where it's like this older man finds this young, you know, quote unquote, like virginal girl who's never experienced anything, who just like falls head over heels, is made for him. Like I feel like that's also kind of like a cultural thing where we see stories about this over and over again. Like I think that's like, it grosses me out. I'll say that straight away. I feel like, you know, we should want our partners to be adults. But like it's a thing that happens over and over and over again in media. Is like it's not just the younger girl or the younger person wants a mature, rich older person to take them away to like let them live the life they would never have had the opportunity to live. It's also the other way around too. Comes from both directions. And like I, having been once a young girl myself, I know, crazy, like the idea once upon a time.
Wait, you were an immortal goblin. No.
I was once a young girl though. But like the idea of like having financial freedom and having someone who you can trust, who has had those experiences before, so they can like guide you. Like one of the first things that happens with the goblin and his bride is like they go to Canada. And so it's like imagining like your first time traveling, but like you're going with someone you trust, who's like an older person, who has like this financial stability, so you can pretty much do whatever you want. And like he follows her around like, oh my God, I have to take care of this horrible, immature, jumping around child. Like I can't just leave her in a foreign country. But part of that is like having that like safety net, you know, where she feels comfortable like going around and poking her head in everywhere and just basically like running amok because he's right there with her the whole time, you know. And there is that element of trust, probably because they've been fated to be together for 900 years, but you know, like not everyone has that.
Not everyone has gods and not working on their side.
I mean, okay, to be fair though, sometimes God makes you watch everyone you love die for the rest of time. So
yeah, you know,
good with the bad, you know.
You know, there's the angry god, and then there's the one that gives you a small, cute child to love.
Yeah.
I also feel like towards the end, like we got the kind of like the double-edged sword of like memory and loss and love. Like everyone kind of doesn't actually get their happy ending in this life. Like,
Yeah.
it was like there was a peak where everything was cool and good, and like we thought maybe it would be great on like episode 14. And then it was
I can
like
confidently say I didn't expect the ending.
right?
Yeah, it definitely is, and this I think is a result of the amount of content in each episode of a K-drama episode. Like we talked about this slightly before we started recording, but actually, like if you watch a single episode of Goblin, like basically an entire storyline happens within it, and like because each episode is like
an
70
hour
to
and
90 minutes long.
Yeah, it's
right?
almost a full film, like every single episode.
So this happens a lot with I tend to find this happens a lot with K-dramas where especially near the end it can feel like you get a lot of either nothing plots or like last minute like twists, which also usually end up being somewhat inconsequential.
I'm sorry,
or,
Soup, you have to use the words. It's the saccharine placenta.
Yeah, sometimes
No!
sometimes you get the saccharine placenta, right?
No!
Because a lot happens in each episode. There's a lot of content packed in each one, so things can turn on a dime if you really think about it. Because like when you think about a show like Goblin that's like 16 episodes, but actually if you look at it, like each episode is like an hour and a half long. So like it's actually like
it is the
4
entire
episodes.
MCU. It's just 16
Right.
movies.
It's like four episodes of a regular show per episode of this. So like really you're looking at something that's like 64 episodes long. Like this is like Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood length of media here.
And every moment is beautiful.
It's gorgeous. I mean, the cinematography is very, very good.
I will say that's one of the things that keeps
good.
me going back to K-dramas as a thing is like the way they're crafted, and there's a similarity in genre between them. And I'm sure it's the same with anime. Like you watch one anime and then you watch another one and you can see similarities in form between them. But the K-drama pacing tends to be like similar between like series of a specific genre. So the romance pacing is very similar. There's a repetition of musical scores of soundtrack that sets the scene like super well, and that I really, really enjoy. And Goblin, it definitely shines here as well. There's a beautiful, fucking gorgeous fashion and costuming. Like, oh my god, if I could wear everything that they wear in these shows, I would just
Oh my god, yeah.
put it all in my closet. So the costuming is excellent. The like the sets, these like chaebol houses, I don't know, I feel like they use a lot of, I've actually seen different K-dramas that use the same exterior houses.
Yeah. I think that's a common enough to the point where like Korean fans actually joke about it.
It's great though. Like I loved being like, I've seen that house before. It was in this one. But like just like the set design, it's so like I just want to live in all of them. And I think that like Goblin was the first K-drama I ever watched, but it really like performs super well and in so many of these like genre standards, as it were. And like that's one of the things that keeps me coming back to the K-dramas as a whole, is just like it's kind of like a comfort thing at this point. Like you hear these 4 songs, like you always know what's gonna happen.
The exact same 4 songs for the exact same moods. You always
It's like this song comes on, you're like, oh no, it's going to be a sad romantic moment between these 2 characters.
Right. I mean, that's a very real thing, not just in K-dramas, but actually in the American romance novel, the Western romance novel, to the point where if you actually go and you try to publish a romance novel, they'll actually ask you for word counts, specifically so that they can fit the beats of a romance, like of the romance genre, kind of within the space. So, like, this is actually a real thing that, like, people much smarter than I have thought about and looked into and, like, basically, like, theory crafted into perfection, right? The fact that romance novels have a predictable flow to them is on purpose. It's a crafted thing, right? Because,
it
like
sells.
you said, I mean, yeah, like you said, it's kind of a comfort thing, right? Once you've seen one romantic show, you've seen most of them, and that is in general what people like want, right?
What was it? There's a thing that's like there are only 32 different plots for movies, and they just keep
cycling them. Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, that's probably very true. Yeah, like when you're operating within genre, especially like strictly within genre, these kinds of things that people kind of don't think about, actually someone has thought about them. So I always thought that was a very cool thing. The fact that, like, romance novels, when you pitch them, have to be around a certain length so that they know when the story beats should be to align with the expectations of their audience, right?
That's super interesting, but it also makes total sense because, like, having read many romance novels myself, like, there's the, we meet, we have some kind of, like, stretching out of, like, we don't immediately get together. When we do get together, in between, like, 30% and 50% of the novel's finished. And then there's like a 75% where there's got to be some kind of blockade to our love, and then we get over it and we have this sweet little epilogue where we're probably getting married or something. I don't know.
Yeah. The saccharine placenta.
The saccharine placenta, yeah. I feel like one of the things about, like, K-dramas that you some of the things about K-dramas that you start to notice that are that similar way is, like, there's the main couple and then there's, like, the secondary couple.
Yes.
Which is sometimes the comedy couple, and in Goblin it's not so much a comedy couple.
I mean, they kind of are. They're pretty funny.
They're sad though. Their story's so
they're
sad.
Most
they're
of the
very
time.
sad also, yes.
But, like, that's a secondary couple. The Grim Reaper, Wang Yo, played by Lee Dong-wook, and the Chicken Lady, Sunny, played by Yui-na. They're just, like, their love story has a lot more of the long, drawn out, like, longing looks.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie to you. And this may be a consequence of just the kind of person I am. I almost prefer that romance to the other one.
Well, they're also starting both as adults. They're both adults the whole time, so love that.
Oh yeah. I mean, I love that. I just I kind of just adore the, like, very overly dramatic, tragic, like, oh, we can't be together sort of setup.
Oh, it's so sad though.
It's so sad that, like, even during, like, they would flip between the two couples, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you'd have the really sad side couple, and then they would flip on over to the happy main couple, and I'm like, I really don't care about this right now. My side couple is so sad.
Yeah.
I mean, you gotta have a little bit of levity. You can't just be sad the whole time.
I know, and that's why I was thinking. It's true that you need a balance, but at the same time, it's like, because the stakes are so heavy on one side, it's like I'm still invested in that when they flip over,
Right.
So the transition can be difficult sometimes, but
I mean, I will say that some of the most heart-wrenching moments, I still think, go to the Goblin and eun-tak.
Sure, yeah.
Like on the roof,
agree.
the helicopter, like when she
definitely.
cries and then she forgets he exists. Like,
Yeah.
my heart
Yes.
breaks every time.
Yeah.
There are a couple of so if anyone knows me for any, like, extended period of time, you will eventually come to know about me that there are a couple of tropes that I love and I'm a sucker for every time they happen. And one of them, without doubt, is memory loss. Some of the other ones, reincarnation, actually, as it turns out, right? And those two are often intertwined. But I adore when somebody forgets somebody else and even better if somebody forgets another person, but that other person is still there to like know they have been forgotten. It hits me right in the kokoro.
There's another K-drama that I'm thinking of right now. I think it's called Devilish Joy, that has a lot of like memory loss as a theme that you might want to check out.
Memory loss, you say?
I don't know if I've ever finished it. That's another one of the like I can never finish things, but I should go watch it again. I really liked the main couple. They had a height difference thing going on that was really cute.
Oh.
We always love like very, very tall boy and like tiny little petite girl.
Oh yeah.
Although there are some scenes like he's so tall. There are some scenes where it's just like, okay, that's just awkward. It's very like a Dex Bonus and Sam Strippin. Like he's so
my god, literally
I love them,
no joke. That every time someone brings up a couple with like a huge height difference, that's the first two people.
Yes,
I think
me
of.
too.
Every time, yeah. I feel like we've got
I've seen it.
We've got a normal amount of height difference in the Goblin leads. Like eun-tak is a little bit shorter than
It's not
Kim
so
Shin,
stark
but...
that it's like that it's like very noticeable.
No, not one of the like. It's not. They don't use that trope in this one.
No. I mean, you don't need to, I guess, when your guy is like an all-powerful goblin that can.
Do you think that he could just make himself grow, like if he was like shorter? Because like he was born in what, like 1600 something? Like when's the Goryeo dynasty?
Question. The Goryeo dynasty.
Let's Google. Let's go to Google.
Founded in 918.
Okay, so he was born in like the 900s or whatever. Like humanity has been generally getting taller.
That makes sense.
So
it makes sense because it's
Do you think he like made himself taller over time to just like?
I think he was just born that tall because he was also like a war general, right?
Right.
Like tall people tend to be like the big warrior guys, right?
He did keep kicking everyone's ass.
He killed so many people that God had to punish him.
That's a lot of people.
I mean, he did kill a lot of people.
And it's not like he did it because he wanted to. Like his king told him to. His king appointed by God. Although his king did tell him to lose the battles, and then he didn't. So.
And then he didn't. Yeah. I mean, to be fair, like they very clearly have like they're playing a little fast and loose, right? God is a little bit of a mischievous fucker.
And there's there's the two incarnations of God, or the two gods.
Yeah.
Which is interesting.
Yeah.
So in the very, very beginning, there's a grandma who she either is like, old grandma selling jewelry and or cabbage, or she's the gorgeous woman in red, and it's the same person, but she's also like buddy to God and an all-powerful being herself. And I never quite understood where she fits in terms of, and again, I think this is the like clashing of Korean mythology and Christianity. Where at some points, like, it doesn't really make sense, but everyone just accepts that it doesn't make sense, I guess. In that, like, she and God just kind of hang out and are both gods of a sort.
Yeah, they never specify what types of gods they are or what specifically their powers are. It's just implied that they're both deities, and that's...
Yeah, of a certain kind. And in a way... Like, Kim Shin has near godlike powers as well, and has been around for 900 years. I feel like the only difference really is that he started as a human being and was given his powers hierarchically by a different god, Like, maybe if he just stuck around for a long enough time...
He would have ascended.
We can have a second Goblin movie where it's about like actually that's another K-drama and the bride of the water god.
Right, exactly. I mean, to be fair, the like they do kind of make a point of like pointing out how powerful he is, right? The fact that his mood affects the weather, and that's like a thing. So like Yeah, I am not 100% clear on the mythology of the show itself.
I don't think
either,
that it is
to be
clear.
honest.
I think that it's impossible
Yeah.
to be clear. I think it's very like
I also-
flexible.
Yeah, I think in a lot of ways it's meant to be kind of ambiguous because it feels more mysterious, and I mean, to be honest, like you don't really need them to like okay, so this is like a thing, right? I feel like you are allowed to make a piece of media and hint at a larger world and leave a lot of gaps that don't need to be filled. Like we live in the age of of Wikipedia and the Lord of the Rings kind of becoming essentially like an encyclopedia of everything, right? And we assume that's the default mode that each story should operate in. But like actually, it's completely okay to just be like I don't know. There's gods.
Yeah.
How many? Yeah.
I feel like it's interesting the places in which the K-drama allows there to be that like flexibility, like loose definition, and then the places in which they try and like wrap things up into as tight a circle as possible. Like in the saccharine placenta, where they give you every character's epilogue. Like,
Right.
This is how absolutely everyone's life goes on after the show. So you don't have to have any, like, I wonder what happened, question marks. Although Goblin's not, like, the best at this. But that is also, like, a feature of the K-drama genre as a thing where they tend to have, like, leftover screen time. And they're like, oh, shit, what do we do? We will just say how
what do we do?
everyone's life goes from this moment on. Give everyone the beautiful gushy epilogue where they just have happiness and joy forever and ever. Not how Goblin goes again. Kind of, not really.
Kind of.
It's
But, like,
not
they
as clear
really-
cut.
Well, I was gonna say they leave you with the very bittersweet gut punch, very much on purpose.
I feel like that's one of the things that makes Goblin more memorable. Is that
Yeah, I mean,
you
that's
still,
true.
you have the
love
leftover like yearning. I don't know.
Right, I love a good like a sort of like open-ended ending where you could infer what happens from the thematic sort of elements of the text, but it doesn't spell it out for you, right? Like this was a thing when the Annihilation movie came out. A lot of people were very confused by that movie, and they were like, "But what about the ending?" Right? And the same deal with Inception, right? It's like, oh, but what about the ending? Is it real? Is it a dream? Is she the real lady, or is she an alien? Right? And the answer is, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't
but
matter,
also
yeah.
you
That's
can,
not the point.
but you can also kind of infer what the answer is supposed to be from the thematic elements of the text. But
Right.
you know, society wasn't ready for that back then. You know.
And I think that we're becoming even more not ready. Like with the advent of the internet, every question must be answered. Like you have
Yeah,
the ability to write a like the entire blog about every single episode of Goblin. So why not ask every single question? And I feel like this is having the directors and writers accessible, like on
Right,
Twitter.
exactly. That's
You can
what
be
I was
like,
thinking.
but what about
Right.
what happened with this? Like, what about
Right.
what happened with this? And you can maybe, like, it's possible to get answers to those unanswered questions. And so now we kind of assume that all of those questions will be answered. And I think that having things like the Marvel Cinematic Universe and the Lord of the Rings television show and like all of the Disney Plus television shows, it's like if there are any loose ends, we're just going to turn them into 6-part miniseries, you know?
Right, exactly. Welcome to the Boba Fett diaries.
Yeah, it's like if there's any unanswered questions, we're just going to use that to make another show. Whereas I love how K-dramas, not all of them, but a large portion of them is just one season and done.
Yeah,
Like,
just very
that's
self-contained. Yep.
And it's also really cute how they tend to like refer to the things the actors have been in before. Like I was watching Tale of the Nine-Tailed, which also has Lee Dong-wook in it, and he makes references to goblins and grim reapers in the show, and it's just like a really cute little wink to the audience.
Very cute.
Yeah. Well, that's like because I'm pretty sure we didn't talk about this on the recording, but they go to see eun-tak and Kim Shin go to watch a movie together, and it's Train to Busan, who, if you don't know, Gong-yu also plays the main character in that movie. So it's just it's a funny little like tie-in, just like saying like
I'm gonna have to watch that part again because I hadn't watched Train to Busan when I watched
It's really
Goblin.
funny because he's watching that part and then he's just like,
he's so
scary.
scary. I didn't know the reference, and now I do. And like I've watched Train to Busan, and I'm a huge weenie when it comes to horror, but it actually isn't that. Like, it's not that bad, and so now it's even more hilarious to me that he was reacting the way he was.
Right. Train to Busan isn't that bad as a horror film. It's much more just kind of like there to punch you in the guts and make you feel sad.
Which it did.
Just over
I felt
and
sad.
over again. Yep. Mm-hmm.
I think the part that I hated the most about Train to Busan was that the asshole like banker or whatever dude lived as long as he did.
Yeah. 100%. Oh, I should watch that movie again.
Oh,
it makes me
so
sad,
good.
though.
I heard they made a second one, but it's not even nearly as good, which upsets me.
Really?
Like if they ever made a second Goblin, I feel like it would just be a letdown.
I feel like it's very much that like you have to kind of just let well enough alone at a certain point.
Right.
And I feel like K-dramas understand to a certain extent. Like they have the 16 episodes where sometimes they could have used 10, but like they understand to a certain extent that like you don't need to go back for more. Like it's only ever gonna be not as good as the original. Like imagine a universe in which they never made anything past the first 3 Star Wars. Like, I'm happy that we have the Mandalorian, but also
we are distinctly in an era where that kind of media is not only being made, but very, very popular, right? Because like it used to be that Disney would release sequels to their very popular movies as VHS only releases to just like kind of cash in and make a buck, right? But now like people look at them and hold them up as like the thing, right? It's like an extension of the universe. Everything has to have an extended universe.
Yeah.
And there's very much a part of me that really gravitates towards like these very isolated kind of singular experiences that I can like watch and then put down and then kind of just be done with. And I like that. I like when things have a lot of open-ended, like loose stuff. Like that's the thing I really have been enjoying about Disco Elysium, which is it is a game that presents to you a world that is so big and wide and vast and complicated and very well thought out, but they only show you so much of it because you're just some random hobo cop that drank too much and can't remember shit anymore. And I love that. I love that the scope of it is so much smaller, even though the implied world is bigger, and even if all of that stuff isn't necessarily filled in. I like when something is like well thought out, but also like leave some gaps for you to do some thinking. I mean, like really, we live in an age where I feel like to a certain extent we're almost like losing our roots in terms of like being able to like take a piece of media that has been put out and is like its own singular experience, and then like being like, you know what, I wanted some more of that. But instead of official content, you just go and you write some fan fiction.
Yes, the fan fiction.
Right? Yeah.
Well, yeah, and like, I feel like it's kind of part of it is that we used to watch things and be like, what is this telling me? What can I learn from this? Like, I'm going to analyze this media, and now we're just watching things and just absorbing whatever they tell you and not like looking into it and not like analyzing it.
Sure.
like I think TikTok has kind of like given me a little bit of a resurgence
gosh.
of more analytical media viewing, because there was one TikTok which kind of blew my mind, saying that the Eternals is a abortion allegory, where they're making the decision whether to allow this like great being to be born or not. And if it's born, it will like harm its parent planet irreparably. So whose life is more important, the mother or the child?
Right. Yeah.
And I didn't think about that until this like TikToker was like, "This is what this is saying," and I'm like, "Holy shit!"
I mean, that's like the thing, right? Is that I feel like critical reading has never been at a better or a worse place, really. Because I think in general, on one hand, we're in kind of a very depressing place where school doesn't really teach you how to read critically. To be honest, I didn't actually get formal education in how to read anything critically until I was in college, right? Because before then, anything that I knew about reading things critically came from online. And like that's kind of the other side of the coin, which is that there are a lot of people doing a lot of work online to ensure that people are looking at media critically and making sure that they have the literacy to be able to think about and absorb stuff. But also, like, I think part of the reason why it's so hard to analyze media right now is because there's just so much of it. Right?
Yeah, that's true.
This is something that I'm beginning to feel, even like doing this podcast, right? Like, it's a podcast for the study of modern visual culture. It's we're meant to be here analyzing things critically, but I'm not gonna lie to you. After 4 and some amount of years of pretty regularly watching seasonal anime and talking about it, and going through it over and over again, I'm tired. Like, there's too much anime coming out right now. It's like straight up. There's so much more than there used to be, and a lot of it is better than it used to be. And like, I kind of hate it.
Just imagine how the writers and directors and animators feel.
Oh God,
Exhausted,
yeah.
I'm sure.
Yes.
The pace at which animation is being made is unsustainable, straight up. Like, we've already seen at least a couple of big high-profile projects collapse under the weight of their own production scheduling. And some good projects, right? Like One Direct Priority, which, I mean, oh God, we're not going to talk about the last couple episodes of One Direct Priority. I can't open that can of worms right now.
I never watched the last episode.
I didn't watch the last episode they made, like the OVA episode they made
the
like
OVA
afterwards.
One,
Well, I
but
never watched
just-
the last season of Game of Thrones, and I think I'm better for it. So
You're probably
think you
better
are
for
too.
it.
Yeah, I think you stopped at the right time, right?
Yeah.
I Skate the Infinity had to just like take a break to like have a week to recuperate, basically, to like put out a recap episode, right? Recap episode, the bane of all serialized animation.
I mean, thankfully, Skate turned out fine. in
Skate
the
still
end, I
turned out
guess.
well. Yeah, it was still very good,
like,
but like obviously unsustainable.
Well-
oh,
and
definitely.
it's
Whatever
just,
schedule they were on, they needed to take a break.
and game devs and webtoon writers and artists
Yes.
and
Oh my
everyone
God, yeah.
else. But like circling back to K-dramas, I feel like one of the really cool things about, and obviously this probably isn't cool to anyone who wants to break into the industry, but like you watch a 1-season K-drama and you're like, well, there's not 5 seasons of this that I can binge, but you can go and watch a bunch of other stuff that the actors have been in. Like, I tend to find like a lot of my new favorites in that way. And that's like one of the cool things about kind of exposing yourself to Korean drama for the first time is like you watch Goblin, let's say, and then the 4 main actors all have this amazing body of work that you can then like work through. Like, I had never seen Train to Busan, and I went and watched it because I was like, what else has Gong Yu been in? And like people who might have gotten exposed to K-dramas for the first time via Squid Game, Gong Yu's also in that, and like being like, what else has he done, or what else have the other actors in this show done? And instead of going for like, let me watch Star Wars episode 1 through 6 and then 7 through 9 and then The Mandalorian and then the Book of Boba Fett and then the Clone Wars, which is all in one cinematic universe. Instead, you tend to work your way through the actor or writers or directors body of work, because they tend to have these limited series, but you tend to follow the people who are making them versus trying to stay in the same universe. There's a couple K-dramas that have like a season 2, but I haven't run into that many.
Yeah, I mean, I think also like people are very aware of Korean media at this very moment, just because like Hallyu Wave stuff and
it's very intentional. Korea's put a lot of money into making it be that way.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think Netflix has also put Korean drama.
Yeah. I've noticed that a lot.
general.
Is that a lot of Korean dramas end up on Netflix, where people will be exposed to them.
Yeah, Netflix has put out a lot of dramas, which is great. But like now I have like 2 or 3 different services that are just for K-dramas.
Yeah. I mean that's the way it works, right?
Right.
Unfortunately, God, don't we know what it's like to subscribe to too many subscription services to watch all the
I got
stuff
like
that you
4
don't
tabs open and I'm like, what do I want to watch tonight?
Yeah, it's there's so much stuff to watch. I just I can't keep up with all of it, and I want to keep up with all of it is the problem. I think
that's your problem. Yeah.
Yeah.
You need to wait until you're reincarnated, Soup.
I do. I'll reincarnate into somebody who never has to work a day in their life.
A chaebol.
I will do. Yeah, I'll reincarnate into a chaebol, and I'll do nothing but watch K-dramas for an entire life.
That sounds great. Now
It
I want to
really
watch.
does,
Now I
right?
want to watch the K-drama where there's like a chaebol who's addicted to watching K-dramas and never leaves his house, but his family is like, you have to get married, and so they like force him into this manufactured plot of a K-drama, like make him like basically do like, I don't know, like an escape room or like what is it like they make that for him, and they like assign actors to the roles that are all like or the Truman Show. It's like the Truman Show. But with a chaebol who needs to get married, and then he ends up falling in love with someone who's completely outside of the entire scheme. And oh my God, I should write this. Like this is my $1 million idea.
I think this would be pretty choice. Pretty choice book idea. That's all I'm gonna say. I think you could easily market this.
Yes, me, a white woman, writes about Korea. That sounds like a great idea.
Do it.
It's okay. If you write it for me, I'll slap my name on it.
That's what it is.
And then we'll work together. Perfect.
You'll have a sensitivity reading and editing, and then it'll be good.
Yeah. I'll look over your shoulder as you write it, and I'll just be like, okay, no, this is not correct.
No. Here's how it goes. I will decide that I need to move to Korea for a business expense.
Right.
Yes,
and then just like it's an immersive business expense that I then can write off because I needed to do it for my book.
Yes.
There are like there and like obviously like this is terrible, but like there's quite a storied history of white people taking non-white names in order to market their stuff. It's a whole thing, yeah.
Whoa.
I mean, like,
okay.
do you, like there was a story about like a Marvel writer.
Yes,
who,
I was gonna bring up the
No
same
way!
thing, like the Marvel
so-
writer who like was this white ass man, like totally white, and like took I think Japanese name,
Oh no.
so that they could be like the diversity hire.
I think
Oh no.
I actually think that something similar has happened with Bitcoin. I think they found out that the guy who invented Bitcoin was just a white guy who took a Japanese person's name.
Oh.
But yeah. So anyway, we're gonna put that aside. Obviously, Bluejay would never do that.
No, I wouldn't. I am self-aware, and that's why I mentioned it in this podcast that I would not do that thing.
Yeah, this is us holding
Quietly
you accountable.
makes a new
We're
account.
looking at you.
I
just
would never.
quietly deletes Twitter account.
No, I would at least co-write, okay?
Yeah,
I have
yeah.
some decency. I'm just going to sell my idea to an authentic Korean person.
Right, exactly. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, just talking slightly back in the direction of Goblin, just kind of as we're sort of, I suspect, on the tail end of this discussion, mostly because we've been going for an hour and a half already. There is some stuff that I really enjoy about Goblin as a piece of romantic fiction, because it has a lot of the tropes that just fucking are sniper shot aimed at my brain. So, like, obviously, I've talked about how memory loss is one of my like big heart good tropes. It makes me feel sad, but that also makes it, like, in a good way. Like, I feel sad in a way that makes me feel good. Maybe because I'm a masochist, but there is a lot of stuff about immortality that I think is, like, cool. Like, I love when you have, like, these characters of differing lifespans who have to grapple with that. And I love it when they do it in a way that, like, obviously you can do it a very, like, standard way where you can be like, oh no, the tragedy, I'm gonna have to watch you die, etc. But I guess we can be together, right? And as long as you do that well, it will turn out well, right? I like it here because, like, she's literally the key to him dying. But then when he, like, figures out that she can end him, he's like, wait, actually, hold on. Wait, actually, hold on.
And that's an interesting reversal of the power dynamics, which I think we've talked about in an earlier conversation.
In another combo, yeah.
Just the idea that, like, classically, like, older man lived 900 years, has godlike powers, would be the person who has, like, the leverage in the relationship, but this little 19-year-old can kill you. Like, she's the only one who can. She has your life in her hands, and so that's an interesting reversal of the power dynamic. And also, like, in terms of the romance of it all, like, she has to kill him or she'll die.
Right.
And there being that kind of, like, push and pull of, this is your only path to death, but now you feel more alive than you ever have. And actually you have to die, really. And you're not allowed to just live for another 80 years with this woman, and then have her pull out the sword at the last minute. Like, you actually have a time limit on this. And that, it's so romantic. I don't know. I don't know why. I'm right with you there, Soup. Like, it's so romantic to be like, but actually she has to kill you. I'm just like, my heart.
I've said this in the past, but the trope of, like, I want you to be the one to kill me is one of my favorites. It's so good. It's like, if I love it even in a non-romantic context. I love the trope of, like, if I must die, let it be by your hand. Like,
so
at
good.
the very beginning of the show, when you have, you know, Kim Shin, and he's, like, there, and he, like, goes to his second in command, and he's just like, I want you to be the one to kill me, right? I'm like, oh,
you're like, bro,
my heart.
You're like, bro, this bro romance, I can't even take it. Well, and I just, like, I also love, I don't know if this is used often enough to be tropey, but the idea of, like, I've wanted to die this whole time until I met the vehicle of my death, and now I no longer wish to. Like, I don't know if there's enough media where that is present for it to be a trope, but it's definitely one of the main themes of Goblin, and it's so, like, resonant. Just,
it's very
I've been searching for my death for 900 years and watching everyone I love die and suffering the whole time. And now when I finally find the weapon of my demise, I don't want to die anymore.
You know what? I have definitely seen that kind of trope before. I don't know if there's a name for it. I'm sure there is. People on TV tropes are fucking weird.
Well, it's not as overused as some of the other ones.
No.
But it's definitely one of the things I also like in the kind of play of immortality. I love when somebody who is ostensibly immortal like realizes that the end of their life is near and realizes that they don't actually want to go. I think, you know what, actually, I think that the reason I like this trope so much is because I watched way too much Doctor Who when I was younger.
Oh my god, yes. I had a big
So, like-
Doctor Who era when I was in like college. Yeah.
Right. So like anytime they're like anytime you're at the end of a doctor's like
Regeneration
run, and
cycle, yeah.
and he's just like like
I don't want to
I'm
go.
gonna continue to live, but I don't want to go. You're like, oh fuck,
God,
Still
David
kinda
Tennant,
hits, not
that
gonna lie.
fucking scene gets me
Oh.
every time. And
Yeah.
like,
I
oh.
mean-
I also recently started rewatching Doctor Who. I just
good.
I got up to
There's,
the new female doctor, Jodie Whittaker.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I stopped watching right when Peter Capaldi came in.
That's when I
which,
originally stopped too.
which is kind of a shame because I hear he was actually pretty good in the role, but
He's definitely he gets
you know.
better towards the end of his reign, I guess, as Doctor Who. Jodie, I feel like she needed better writing. I've seen some. I haven't
yeah.
seen all of her seasons, but
I think you can say that about a lot of Doctor Who.
yeah. I mean, I feel
definitely
like it suffered from a similar fate to a lot of the media you're talking about, where they're just like, you just got to make more episodes, make as many episodes as possible, go fast, and that tends to create less quality writing. The writing staff is overwhelmed, the production staff is overwhelmed, and you get less good stuff because of it.
I think there's also just a certain level to it where the writing staff is just not as keyed into what makes for effective media as they should be, right? This was the case with the very end. I mean, really, honestly, kind of throughout the entirety of Matt Smith's run as the Doctor, but definitely near the end, you can kind of tell that a lot of it was very geared toward like spectacle and bombast. And
that's Stephen Moffat for you, yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's very, and then Moffat obviously doesn't know how to write women either.
Oh yeah, I was reading something the other day where it was saying there's probably, I think, 4 different characters where they meet the Doctor as a child and are like forever altered because of it, and then he kisses them as an adult. Like,
yeah, it's like it's really weird. It's pretty weird.
And we're not talking
not
like
lie.
in The Goblin when she's like 19 when they meet. We're talking like 9 years old.
Yeah,
like or
no,
an infant, like very problematic.
If you had any concerns about like the sort of like grooming implications, it is very much not as bad in Goblin. In Doctor Who, oh boy,
yeah. So if you're if you're concerned about any sort of like trigger warnings that come with Goblin, I don't know if you could have gotten through this whole thing without already watching it, because we went all over the place and. But it's very, very light when it comes to adult man and young girl sort of stuff. Like, I know that can be really triggering for some people. It's very light touch.
It's mostly him trying to get rid of her.
Yeah,
and then
when she's younger.
Like, yeah, I love you because you have money and stuff.
Right.
Like,
Please give me $5,000. Thank y'all.
Yeah, thanks.
So yeah, that is the thing, right? Is that obviously there is a level of eun-tak as a character has more general agency than similar characters in similar situations. Obviously she is the one who is taking the sort of aggressive stance in the relationship and like pursuing it, right? And for the most part, Kim Shin is just kind of like, I don't know what's no, I don't want this, right? And
then occasionally saving her life also.
Right, exactly. And obviously she holds the power to kill him. It's a very pointed sort of like power balance that goes but at the same time, obviously, like, she's a character that is being written by somebody. Every aspect of her is being crafted, right? It's like the idea of a strong female character when like at the end of the day they're still like kind of being written for a specific purpose, and they're being written by a man and all that kind of stuff, right? But the way that it plays out, I think, is more palatable to watch than it could have otherwise been,
I also feel like she doesn't live for him. Where I feel like that's often like with Bella in Twilight, with Bella and Edward's relationship, she ceases to exist when he's not around. Right. And that's not the case for eun-tak at all, because she is pursuing her college degree. She's taking her exams. I'm trying to I keep thinking A levels, and I'm like, no, that's Britain, you idiot.
Yeah, she has a lot of relationships with other people.
Yeah,
which I really appreciate.
She has a relationship with her boss, and she has a relationship with her class president, and she has her own job and her own life outside of her romance with the Goblin. And I feel like that fleshes her out as a character and makes the often problematic age difference more palatable, because some of the other issues that often come along with the age difference in romance are not present, at least not in the same ways.
Right. Yeah. It's not Red Flag City.
No, I wouldn't watch it if it were. So I just know that some people might have trigger warnings for content like that. Sure. And this is very light. Yeah. So obviously go at your own pace and all that, but I would still recommend it.
There's also definitely just a level of where it's at least she's technically an adult, and he's technically an adult, and it's not a situation where she's a high schooler who's in love with her teacher or whatever. That's where it gets a very dicey.
Can I just say what high schooler hasn't had a crush on one of their teachers?
Oh yeah.
That's not the problem. The problem is when the adult gets involved in that part.
Right. Yeah.
Kids have crushes on adults all the time. The problem is when the adult gets involved in that crush. That's not cool.
Yeah. I mean, it's it is very much within the realm of yeah, I guess I can see why you might enjoy this, especially as so this is the thing, right? Is that you have two separate groups of people, like you said earlier, Bluejay, about how you have the high schoolers who see this and they're like, wow, hell yeah, what a fantasy, yeah. This is super cool and sexy and stuff, and then you have the other end, which is just kind of weirdo adults who are just yeah,
and you're
children, and you're oh god,
question marks.
I want a world that is safe for children to have that kind of media and not be so normalized to it. This is the thing about problematic media that I've kind of come to the point where I can verbalize it, where I have been kind of bouncing it around for a while, and I've been thinking about it. I've been seeing what other people have been saying, right? Where the thing about saying that a piece of media is problematic is that it was never necessarily about just a specific piece of media, but it's talking about general trends. If you have one show that has a big age difference, right, and it might not even treat that age difference as sensitively as Goblin does, right? It's not necessarily a problem on its own. It's a problem when that trope gets codified and normalized in a way where it can be used in nefarious ways to
You mean heteronormativity, Soup?
Yeah, heteronormativity. In fact, I'm going to make it illegal to be straight.
Ah, good.
Whoa.
Good. I'm all for it.
Yep. Sorry, everybody. You gotta be gay.
At least a little bit.
Them's the rules.
You have
At
to
least
have
a little bit.
If you are a heterosexual man, you still need to have a crush on Ryan Reynolds, and then you're you're okay.
You are required to have at least one man crush, and if you do not have one, then
we will assign Ryan Reynolds to you.
Right, exactly. I was assigned Ryan Reynolds at birth.
And who is it for women? With Gillian Anderson, who?
Gillian Anderson.
Yeah.
I mean,
sure.
as a non-straight myself, I have many. So I can't speak for all straight women. Unfortunate. But I'm sure there's lots of cuties that you guys can crush on. But I know via TikTok that for straight men, it's Ryan Reynolds.
Interesting.
Yes,
That's
TikTok has
wild.
told me
what
this.
the fuck? Ryan Reynolds, really?
Yeah.
I can see
Ryan-
it. Yeah.
Ryan
He's
Reynolds
cute.
is
He's
like,
funny. He's non-threatening.
Yeah, he's funny and charming and handsome. Why
I get.
not?
You know what? Okay. Yeah. No. I understand now. You've convinced me. Talking upon his other merits, because when I look at Ryan Reynolds, I'm just like, this is just a man. Like, you know.
No. Like,
I mean-
part of it is that he's not too like otherworldly handsome.
Okay. All right. I see.
And
Yeah.
he has some, like,
Okay, I get it
self-aware
now.
commentary. Like, he's not up his own butt in terms
Right.
of, like,
he's
not
he's
able to
like
make
he's
fun
got
of
a little
himself.
down to earth humor about him.
Right,
No, I see where you're
exactly.
coming from.
See, that's why it's not
Lee.
Lee Pace, because any woman who looks at Lee Pace would immediately leave their husbands, and
Right.
the men can't have that. The straight men, they feel threatened
right.
by
The men
that.
feel threatened, exactly.
So it has to be a man that you can imagine like not hitting on your wife, and I think Ryan Reynolds is that man.
Yeah. Ryan Reynolds would never come up to your girl in the club and slap her ass.
No, he would he would respect her.
You know
You'd
what?
probably
Okay.
make her laugh a little bit.
All right. Here's my decree. Everybody who is a heterosexual man, you are now being assigned Kazuma Kiryu as your man crush.
Aww.
There will be no discussion. Okay. Yeah. No,
That's fine.
I completely understand.
We've gone way away from all of the subjects.
We've gone so far off topic.
So far off topic, but you know, we're talking about visual media. It's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
all of
mean-
this is visual media.
It's hard to talk about one thing without also talking about all of the stuff around it. Especially if you're taking a critical lens, you have to talk about things in context. Yeah. I did realize that we got here by talking about some of the tropes that I love in Goblin, and I'm just going to say very briefly that the other trope that I really like is another immortality trope. It's the immortality trope where you have a guy who or somebody who is ostensibly immortal, and they meet somebody and they're like, I feel emotions now for the first time in hundreds
Oh yeah, you're a
of
huge
years.
sucker for those.
I will say that in
it's so
relation to
good.
that as well, I loved the relationship between the Goblin and the Grim Reaper.
That was like
Yes,
my favorite
so
part
good.
of
Because
the show.
I feel like you could almost say similarly to like, I have feelings again in terms of eun-tak. Like he also has like quite an emotional relationship with the Grim Reaper.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and in
that's- I
fact,
mean, that's very true.
the Grim Reaper is one of the only people who, I mean, we find out later there are more than one person who remembers him. But like when God erases his memory from the world, he leaves it with the Grim Reaper as like
Yeah.
the soul carrier. I mean, obviously that's not entirely true. We later learn in the show, but like it's
Right,
kind of
yeah.
cute, you know?
Chicken Lady
Yeah.
OP.
Like they have a bromance that's very like angry with lots of silverware being thrown around, but like them sitting at the table and like cooling down beers and like hard boiling eggs together.
Yeah, I love that scene. I love the scene where he's just like, here, can you chill this for me? And he's like, okay.
It's so good and it's so cute, and like I feel like that the fact that the drama doesn't just exist as like this is a romance, these are two romances
Right,
between
yes.
these two characters, but there
Yes.
are all these interpersonal relationships that are all very valued and important, like the Goblin's relationship with his caretaker family,
Oh my gosh.
when his, I guess, the CEO guy, I forget what his name was, when he passes away, it's such an emotional moment.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You feel as hurt as the Goblin, probably.
And
Yeah, it's because
Sweet
like
old man.
it is well. So it's one thing to hear Kim Shin talking about how everyone I have ever loved has passed away.
Right.
And it's another
Right.
thing entirely to like actually be there and experience it happening,
Yes.
especially with a character you've been with for quite a long time at this point.
Yes.
Honestly,
Yeah.
like
And Goblin gives the show gives so much weight to all of these interpersonal relationships, and it's really one of the things that makes the show something that I've watched. I think this is my third time watching it all the way through. It's just like it continues to sing in those moments, and that's like on actor chemistry, but also in the writing.
Oh yeah.
And in, you know, all of the design elements that just makes it a really good show, is that all these people like working together, and the relationships between the characters, and not just the love interests.
Yeah, I really love all the tiny little side stories they also incorporate to essentially bolster the themes that they're telling in this story. Like every time there's a Grim Reaper scene with like a person he has to help pass on, or every time there's a scene where the Goblin is like helping some random stranger.
Those are all so
I get
beautiful.
so emotional. I cry like every time.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing, right? Is that it's very important for a show like this to have moments outside of the main cast, where the characters are kind of allowed to breathe.
Yes.
And there's a lot of space to do so in the show, because there's a lot of very intense, dramatic stuff that happens in the show. There's a lot of weight put behind it. It treats that matter, you know, those scenes very seriously.
Except for the car accident, the massive
except for the car accident. Yeah, I mean,
I don't think
that's a lot. That one was a lot. But there's like a lot of moments where like the show is like either quite sentimental or quite sad or quiet, right? There's like these moments where okay, this is funny because like I was just talking about how good it is with with the gravity of these situations, but there is also the sequence where the Goblin basically tells someone, hey, don't kill yourself, here's a Subway sandwich.
I was just gonna say a lot of these moments are sponsored by Subway.
That is one thing, if you pay attention, is that this show is quite egregious with some of its product placement.
I love that though. They don't try and hide it. They don't try and trick you. They're just like, this is sponsored by this coffee shop.
Yep, this is sponsored by Subway. Here's this weird like almond beverage that everybody drinks for their hangovers, right? But like there's also just like a lot of it's almost like slice of life-y in a way, even though there's like this kind of supernatural drama going on, and that contrasts with that supernatural drama in like a decent way. It like makes a flow and a rhythm that like keeps things moving, and also like a lot of the show is just very funny. There's a lot of like very funny moments, especially when both Kim Shin and Wangya the Reaper are on screen together. You're right, it comes down to actor chemistry. Like Gong-yu is like very good with his facial expressions. Like he does that thing where he like opens his entire face up super wide. And he's like,
yeah.
Right. So there's a lot of that stuff, but also like eun-tak is also like a very funny character, right? A lot of the time she's very snarky and witty.
Yes.
She's very playful. She's like, just give me $5,000 and I will leave you alone, right? And then you have so like the relationship between Wangya and Sunny is like very serious and very dramatic and like very sad and tragic. But there's also just like so much in between where it's just so bonkers. Because, like, he doesn't know how to use a cell phone.
Oh my god,
love
I
that.
cannot speak to you unless I have a business card. Let me not talk to you
He's
for
like,
a week and a half.
There's a lot of these gags where he's invisible and he's like, oh no, she tripped. I'm gonna have to save her. And he's like just standing. He's just sitting there, and she's like, what the hell? And
then she's being haunted by a ghost.
Right, exactly. And then there's the scene where she like takes the branch and like she just like calculates the height. It goes whoosh,
yes,
and he's like, oh.
I feel like that's where it starts to go into just like sad. That was the last like funny moment.
Yeah, that's true.
From then on,
like
it's
when
just
he went
horribly sad.
But until then, the relationship is extremely funny. And very
no,
endearing
you're completely right. I having just watched like the end episodes, I'm just like,
right, exactly, yeah. I mean, it's so like it tugs at my heartstrings very, very strongly when you have the end of the show essentially just be like, we couldn't be happy in this life together, but I promise we'll be together in the next one. I'm like, oh fuck,
Yeah.
I'm gonna cry,
Heart, dude.
ah.
Oh, it's so upsetting. It makes me cry. It makes me really sad.
Yeah,
But it's still worth watching, and I feel like one of the reasons it's worth watching is because there are like so many different emotional moments.
Yeah.
You feel so many different feelings.
I think
Honestly,
that's
Goblin is what made me want to live again.
Yeah. Well, like that's the funny thing is that like I think that is very true where there is such a wide breadth of emotion like being conveyed to you very effectively in this show. It feels so human even though the premise of it is so supernatural, right? The fact that you can have these moments of like deep sorrow and tragedy contrasted with these moments of just like utter bliss and these extremely funny moments where they're just like getting drunk together, just like completely misusing your Grim Reaper powers to chill some brewskis for the bros, right? All that kind of stuff is like it when you boil it down, right? When you look at all of the moment to moment stuff, it's actually a lot of very small stuff that's happening that feels very big. Because it encompasses this like breadth of human experience in a way that feels real. And I think that's like the most positive thing that I can say about Goblin in totality, right? Is that it's a very human love story.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna go watch it again.
Do it.
I mean,
Do
yeah. So, I mean, you didn't get to watch the end, so I mean,
That's
you have
right.
an excuse to watch it
I have
again.
the last 2 episodes of like 4 K-dramas that I just haven't watched. I feel like I just don't want them to be over.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
that's
I know
understandable.
people do that,
You should watch them
sure.
all at once, so that while like you watch one and you're sad that it's over, but you have another one to jump into.
I mean, that's inevitably like what'll happen is
I
I'll
have-
restart them because I've forgotten. And I'll be like, I guess I just have to watch it all over again.
Oh no.
This is what inevitably happens to me when I get into like media kicks, because oftentimes this is a result of ADHD, right? I hyper focus on one thing at a time, right? So I will read a manga and I'll be like, that was good. I want to read another manga, and I will find another manga that's probably pretty similar, and then I'll keep going. This is how I went through basically all of the isekai genre that existed
That's what I was
some odd number of
thinking,
years
yeah.
ago. It's also the same as when I went through the entire isekai villainous subgenre
Yes,
a couple of years
yes.
ago.
That's
We did an
also what I was
entire-
thinking.
I was like, we did an entire podcast episode about that. But yeah, I'm only somewhat joking when I say you should just watch the endings of all of them in a row. All right. Well, any closing thoughts?
My closing thoughts are if you see ghosts, you should probably just not tell anybody about it, except for maybe a doctor.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I suppose. Listen, it's much better if the ghosts don't know that you can see them.
Yeah.
I was taught this both by Goblin and Miyaruko-chan.
I mean, I just feel like that's
I
the
am
wisdom
going
for
to-
the ages.
I'm gonna argue that you should find yourself a ghost squad, contrarily, and they'll be your homies, and they'll ride with you again. You know, beat up your abusive aunt if you have one.
And they might
And,
put you in a position where you almost get murdered on a building.
You know, yes, but then they'll try and make it up to you later, and then you say bye bye, and it's very sad.
I did adore the ghost scenes.
They were so
really,
cute.
They really came around to being very endearing.
I just thought that we hadn't really talked that much about the ghosts, so I might as well throw in a last impression for, ghosts. I don't want the ghosts to be mad at me.
Oh yeah, it's important. It's important to acknowledge them and their service. Thank you for your service.
Thank you,
ghosts.
ghosts. If any ghosts are listening to this podcast, please leave a 5-star review.
Yeah, yes, please. All right, Renu?
Renu suggested Ghost Squad.
Yeah, did you not hear me?
Oh, God. Sorry, my brain today is just all over the place. It's all over the place every day, but today more than usual. All right. My closing thoughts. If you are interested in watching Goblin, you should absolutely watch it. If you heard what we talked about, or if you just want to watch some nice supernatural romance. I mean, TBH, it's pretty cute, and honestly, it is well worth watching in my opinion. And the camera work is beautiful, and the sets are beautiful. Everything looks so clean and nice and very pretty. Their outfits are just stellar.
Oh my god!
As
It will up your
as we
fashion
discovered-
game, Goblin.
Yeah, as we discovered in the course of researching for this episode, they're really expensive.
So expensive.
But it remains looking like a cozy show.
I will
Right,
say,
right.
I have
Exactly.
to say that we as a group are not liable if you watch Goblin and then spend the next 5 years of your life watching every K-drama you can get your hands on. So that's not our fault.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
but like the
Listen,
show is so bingeable, and so are
It-
all of these other K-dramas.
They're so
it is
good.
the
It's not
grand
our fault.
tradition. It is a grand tradition of my peoples to get way too invested into another country's media and watch everything that you can get your hands on. Honestly, children today have it so easy. They can just go onto Netflix and watch whatever anime they want. Back in my day, we had to watch it in
Back
3
in
parts
my
on YouTube, etc.,
Yeah.
etc.
Yep.
Um, so anyway, we're not liable, and honestly, if it happens, that's a victory. That's a win in my book.
Your life will be better for it.
Yeah. Enrich yourself with another country's media. I highly recommend it.
Yeah.
It will broaden your perspectives. I promise.
They even show Canada in this show.
Yeah,
do.
they
They show
love
Canada.
Canada. We're
Like,
not
they
in
didn't
Canada. I'm not in Canada, but they love
Listen,
Canada.
They didn't even show us, like, they didn't even pretend like it was California like they do most times in movies.
Yeah, they
They were just
actually.
like, no, this is a Canada.
It was on purpose, Canada. Yeah,
It was on purpose Canada. Full frontal Canada.
Wow.
Yeah.
but not Ryan Reynolds.
But not Ryan Reynolds. Not a full
If
frontal
only.
Ryan Reynolds. Okay, well, I suppose on that, it's about time that we closed out. So, Bluejay, thank you so much for coming
Thank
and
you.
talking about Goblo with us.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, as evidenced by how many directions this podcast went, I could do it many more times.
Ah,
You know what?
yay.
I'm certain that is true. Yeah, it do be like that. So who are you and where can we find you on the internet?
Oh man, I'm Bluejay. You can find me. Probably the best place would be Twitter. Bluejay_712. I actually have 3 Twitter accounts, but you can access them all through that one. I have a incredibly good Instagram and a shit show of a TikTok.
I love the contrast.
It's true. Honestly, my Instagram's so curated, my TikTok so spontaneous. And I also put my modeling and photography on OnlyFans and Fansly.
Ooh.
I know.
Yeah.
I know you can't tell by just my voice, but I'm incredibly sexy. So
Ah!
crazy.
Don't worry.
I know.
The audience knows.
They know.
So yeah, I
They
think that's
will know.
everywhere. I think that's most everywhere I am right now. I haven't been on Twitch in a while, but maybe someday. Who knows?
Mm.
Mhm. All right. Well,
Cool.
thank you.
Mhm.
What about
Yeah.
you, Renu?
I am Renu, also known as Swan. You can find me on Instagram at swan.drawn. You can find me on Twitter and Twitch and everything else at swandrawn. I am right now, I guess, on my little Friday night streams. I'm streaming Devil May Cry 5.
Oh wow, nice.
Yeah. Yeah, it's super fun. I love it.
Yeah, I was gonna say I didn't know what you had moved on to since
Yeah.
the last time that we spoke about your streams.
It's a gorgeous game. I'm honestly, it's like making my 3D animator nerd self like really come out because I'm like, oh my god, look at that chromatic aberration, look at that subsurface scattering. It's just me. being
Neuron
a heckin' nerd.
activation.
Yeah, but it's a great time if you want to come and chill. Yep. What about you?
You can find me all the places at Literal Soup, and I am at this current moment kind of easing away from all of the freelance work that I've been doing. I've doing too much work is not good for you, especially if you also have a retail job on top of it. It will destroy your body and your mind. So I don't recommend that. You can find my stuff. Usually I will make tweets about the stuff that I do, but my current occupations right now, not my job occupations, but my fun occupations. If you go to my Twitch page, I'm streaming the video games. Every Saturday, Renu and I play Ace Attorney. We are on the last case of the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles #1. And other than that, I do a D&D subclass tier list with 2 of my friends on Sundays, which you can also tune into. That's a lot of fun. We just did part 1 of Monks. We decided to leave part 2 for the next week. It's probably already out by the time this episode is out, but whatever. And right now, you can go to literalsoup.com, which is my website, and that has my sort of current side project, which is a long fiction is what I'm calling it. It's kind of like a novel-ish sort of thing. It was originally an NaNoWriMo project, but I've been uploading chapters of it that I have in the bank. So if you want to read some of my writing, as embarrassing as it might be for me, you can do so, and you can read the story that I've basically been trying to write for like half a decade, and
That's cute.
It's honestly kind of a mess, but like as I've been going further and further along, it does feel like I'm kind of coming into my own. I wish I had started writing in earnest much earlier, but what can you do? That's life.
Some people don't publish until they're like
started.
70, dude. You've got time.
Right, exactly. So I have let's see, like 50 years before I realistically have to start publishing, which is great for my ADHD, which means I will start in 49 years and 11 months.
And you'll still be baby. Don't
and
worry.
I'll still be baby. Renu and I will be in the same retirement home, and I'll be talking about,
You know, Renu, I just published my first book. It's called The Disaster of Dragons.
Oh my
I'll
god.
become Yoda. Yeah.
And I'll buy it and read it because I'm going to live until I'm 900.
Yes.
You know what? I believe it. 100%. You have been cursed to watch all of the people you love die. I'm sorry.
Wow. What? Don't be like that.
You mean it's just a series of dogs, though?
Okay. Yeah. I mean, to be fair, when you really think about it, what is a human to an animal other than an immortal vampire?
Exactly. Right? Riker doesn't know that I haven't lived for 900 years. He's like, damn, she existed when I was born, and she'll continue to exist mostly unchanged after I die.
Well, I was gonna say
You
like
also-
that's reminds me of a Tumblr post, I think, or maybe it was a Twitter post where somebody was talking about it. Like, especially if you had like like generations of dogs, right? Where you're like you raise your dog's children too. You're just like, yes, this is our warden. She's been alive for 900 years.
That's exactly what the goblin is like to the
exactly.
human.
Yeah.
Wow, I feel like a cool person.
There you go.
I feel even more like an immortal and ageless creature. Thanks, Soup.
Yeah, it's about finding the magic in day-to-day life, is how I like to think of it. But yeah, so that project is called A Disaster of Dragons. It's a working title, and currently there are 12 chapters out. There might be 13 or 14 by the time this
Let's
podcast
go.
episode comes out. But
Let's
you can read
go.
those. Yeah. I don't guarantee quality, and it's embarrassing. But if you like it, that would make me happy.
I want to read it. I like it.
Okay, all right. Yeah. So on that note, I suppose it's about time we close out.
Yeah.
Our opening is by Scott T Network, and our ending is by Takuma Kata. And the patrons we are thanking this episode are Evan Williams, Magpie Mirror Test, Claire Frostfall, Sean Dow, Cherrybo, and Dylan Boats. Thank you so much for your support.
Thank you.
And on that note, we will see you next time.
See you next time.
また明日ね。